Hi, I'm Rich Harwood. You and I face challenges in how we're going to create change in our communities. There's too much division, too much acrimony, too many people separating and segregating from one another, too many organizations and groups fragmented, and there's too much mistrust. Our central task is how we can create a new civic path forward, where we can grow our belief in ourselves and one another that we can actually come together and get things done and move our communities forward. I believe that this is going to take a radically different approach to how we think about working in communities, how we engage with one another, and how we bring ourselves into the world. So I want to tell you about the Harwood Approach, a time-tested, road-tested, proven approach to create change in communities, an approach that's now being used in all 50 states and 40 countries around the world. It's made up of 4 key parts. Here's the first one, civic faith, which is a practical philosophy that puts people, shared responsibility, and community at the center of our shared lives, where we believe that we need to put people at the core of everything that we do, where we believe everyone has something to contribute and has innate capabilities, where we believe hope is a verb, that we face a fundamental choice about whether or not we're going to create authentic hope or false hope, where we believe community needs to be a common enterprise, not just for some of us, but for all of us, where we're pushing in a common direction with common purpose, marshaling our common resources, where we believe that community is rooted in a civic covenant, where we are in relationship to one another and hold mutual obligations to one another. So if the first part of the Harwood Approach is civic faith, the second part is turning outward, which is both a mindset and a practice about how to put people and community at the center of all the work that you do. Turning outward as a mindset is a fundamental posture or orientation. It's a fundamental choice about what direction we're going to face, what direction you're going to face. Will we be turned inward toward ourselves or turned outward toward our community so that community and people are always in our line of sight? And turning outward as a practice is rooted in understanding and being attuned and acting on what really matters to people. Understanding the context of our communities so that we take communities where they are, not where we simply wish they would be. Where we work to strengthen the civic culture of our community through every action that we take, where we're engaged in shared civic learning so that we can understand what works and what doesn't, and we can recalibrate our efforts, and where we're focused on the shared narratives of our communities, because after all, the narratives that we tell ourselves and one another shape our mindset, attitudes, beliefs, and actions. So if the first part of the Harwood Approach is the practical philosophy of civic faith, and the second part is turning outward, the third part is how change happens. Now look, you and I and so many folks we know, we've all engaged in theories of change. But here's the deal. I'm not interested in theories that we concoct in our conference rooms. I'm interested in how things actually happen. And so here's what we've discovered over 40 years of doing this work. Change happens by catalyzing and unleashing a chain reaction that typically starts small and takes root and grows and spreads like a positive contagion throughout our communities. What this means is that we need to release ourselves from the burden of believing that we have to always start with comprehensive plans, that the big, next, shiny, most complex thing is the most valuable thing, that the things that we're going to need to do always have to cost a lot of money. They don't. So in our work, we teach people 4 key mantras about how to make change happen. They go something like this: turn outward, get emotion, start small to go big, because we do want to go big, and create a new trajectory of hope. Again, if the first part of the Harwood Approach is the practical philosophy of civic faith, the second part is turning outward, the third part is how change happens. Here's the fourth and last part: how we show up, how you show up. All of our work sits at the nexus between who you are as an individual and who you are as a civic actor. It requires that we step forward and make ourselves visible. It requires that we act with greater intentionality. It requires that we make more choices and judgments so that we can help shape the future of our work and the future of our communities in ways that actually matter to people. So let me just conclude with this. We're up against a lot in our communities and in our society in trying to create a more hopeful, a more equitable, a more fair, a more just, a more inclusive society. We face a fundamental choice. Will we surrender to these things that are holding us back, or are we going to get on a new civic path where we grow our belief in ourselves and one another that we can actually come together and get things done, and where we can get our communities and this society moving in a more hopeful direction? I believe, like you do, we've got to make this choice. Let's get on the new civic path. That's what the Harwood Approach is all about.